Yo, yo, yo. Let's see. Rock and roll. I think we're good to go. Let's see. Gonna give y'all a second to come on in. And as y'all come on in, I will check on a couple of things. Oh, matter of fact, yeah, that probably better. Let me go to. There we go. There we go. All right. Peace and love and welcome to April. Welcome to the new year. Happy New Year to all my people out there. You know, we are in the equinox. Mercury goes direct on Monday. We got a lot of things popping. All right, so what we got? We got Jacob. What's up? Yes, yes, yes. You know, he drops all the science. GS. Yes, this is going to be an amazing show for sure. What else we got? Okay, cause I said so. Yes, let's go. What's up, Blair? Nep Neptunade. Okay, it's like like some Neptune juice. um, yes, peace and love to the ancestor Solo 5000. Emmy Wow, happy New Year to you. Peace to you, Crown Loads. Foreigners by. I think that's what that means. I think. Happy New Year to you too. Good day to Pasha Sky. What a time to be alive. Peace to Jelani. Yeah, go ahead and share, send notices out to people, let them know, because even though I do these lives, everybody don't get notifications. I know even some of you didn't get notifications until like later on in the show. So it just happens like that for some reason. But yeah, I am back in a place to be. I'm a little McGruffy right now. I'm letting my beard grow a little bit before I get my next little cleanup, little trim. Um, I wanted to come and talk to you all about a couple of things today. But until we get into that, let me see if there's any news, anything worth talking about. Well, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of crazy things. I think one of the most powerful things is discovery under the pyramids, the pillars, which, those in the community ain't really surprised. Really, it's a more of a gotcha, it's more of a I told you so. We knew that the pyramids were not all, it was all that sand. There had to be other structures underneath. It was just the tip of the iceberg. Didn't know it was going to be those specific pillars, but to have some solenoids, because nobody's used the term yet. Everybody keeps saying pillars, but those are solenoids and conducting wires, coming from the depth of the earth. And yeah, I'm definitely going to do a presentation on that, probably in concert with a Decoded or something. We got some good movies coming. Let's see. Yep. What a time to be alive. All right. So, today we are speaking on infrared. This is called red light special. And when we talk about healing and we talk about health, often not, we're focusing on the foods, we're focusing on pharmaceuticals and things of that nature. But I constantly reiterate the importance of light, because this whole thing is electromagnetic experience that we all are having. And in us having an electromagnetic experience, and you know what? I forgot to do is ask y'all how's my sound and my picture. I usually do that before I get going. I should have make sure. 1 second. Okay, I should do better. And let me know about my sound, y'all, before I proceed. Good and good. Thank you. We are electromagnetic beings. We're having a luminous experience for sure. It's all about the interactions of light. And I just wanted to specifically go into, certain processes that take place so y'all can understand that, when you change your light environment, you change the entire dynamics that are going on inside of you. Because even with the foods, the foods are providing light, the foods are providing colors. But when you really get an understanding of light and circadian rhythm, so forth and so on, that's when you really get an understanding of what's going on. Excuse me. Also, we got the large bottle of honey available now. Yes, the 16-ounce big boys are now available on the site. We have a 33% off sale occurring, and we also have duck flour back in stock, which a lot of y'all have been asking for. All right, so I'm going to get into the slideshow. What does the honey do, please? Oh, okay. Before I get started, we will be talking about the honey a little bit more in the presentation, but the honey is Nesut Nectar Stingless Bee Honey. This honey is for dropping in your eyes so that you can clear any eye issues that you may have. We talking cataracts and glaucoma, astigmatism, if you wear glasses, macular degeneration, sinus issues, problems sleeping, even post-stroke, victims, people that are in the hospital that are unresponsive, you can't feed them, but you can drop something in their eyes, right? The honey contains a large amount of phenols and flavonoids, which are these light-containing molecules, but they're preserved very well inside of the honey. That's why the honey is so kind of golden, because there's a whole light show is going on inside of here, preserving the sun, and when it gets inside of your body, you get help with your pancreas, help with diabetes, you get wound healing on the surface, you get genetic cleansing. You put in your ears for ear infections. It's just a amazing food to give your body, an amazing zinzu bean, as they would call it in Dragon Ball Z. And you can ask anybody that is currently in the chat. There's definitely people who have purchased the honey and have the honey right now. So you don't have to take my word for it. You can ask them, how would they rate the honey? What was their experience with the honey? Would they suggest getting the honey? Yeah, it's the best thing smoking for sure. All right. So I'm going to get into this presentation. Before I do, let me put you down there. Let's see what we got in the chat right now. Loving your Scott Summers. Yeah, man. I don't even have mine on me. They're in another room right now. I know I should do a lot better. We're going to be talking about infrared, as you can see on my hand, right? Yeah, we're going to be talking about the red light special. We're going to be talking about melanin. We're going to be talking about the honey, right? Yes, liquid sunlight. And we're also going to be talking about something else. RFJ, a couple other people have been talking about this, right? What we got right here, what we got. Methylene blue in full effect. Y'all see that? Yeah, I'm gonna put another one in there actually. Methylene blue. We're gonna talk about this thing. You know, it is not a natural product. It is not made by nature. I mean, it's constructed from particular elements to yield, but you're not going to find it naturally occurring anywhere in nature. This is definitely a patented chemical. But we're going to speak on it because, you know, I've talked about it off and on throughout the years, but it's becoming very popular now. A lot of people are talking about it more and more and more. So I figure I'd get into the details of it. All right. All right. So let's get into the presentation. Oh, no, not that. Let's do you. And we're going to go here. Let me blow you up a little bit. Let's see how it looks on the screen. Okay, good. Boom. All right. So, red light special, how to transform your life with infrared light. When we wake up in the morning and it is still dark outside, and we go outside to look upon the horizon to catch the sunrise, as the sun starts to spill over the horizon, it is not a white light, it is not a yellow light, it is more of a reddish orange light. And this is reminiscent of Khepera, which is the scarab dung beetle of ancient Kemet. You would see this image with it holding a red ball in its hand because Kheper or Khepera represents the birth of a child, the youth of the mind and the spirit, or the sunrise of the sun. That's what that red infrared energy is all about. And as potent and powerful as the sun may be, in the morning it is very cooling. This is when you sun gaze. Within that first about 45 minutes of the sun, between it rising like 10 minutes before and a good half an hour after, soaking that light in from the sun in your eyes is what is going to empower you. All right. Empower you. So you are able to transform your life with infrared light. You know, recently I went to a spot called Sweat House with my queen, and it was a very amazing experience. They have suites where they have an infrared sauna, they have a cold plunge, and they have a vitamin C shower. So you go in the infrared, about 175 degrees. You know, the sauna is hitting you, pores is opening up, you sweating. You do that for a good like 40 minutes, you know, and then, or maybe even 45. And then you go into the vitamin C shower where the water is just so soft and invigorating, right? It feels soft on the body. It's hard to explain other than it just feeling soft and invigorating. You don't want to get out of it. It just feels great, like little water massages. Then you get in a cold plunge of about 50-degree water. And you know, you ride it out for the rest of your time. You do as much as you can. You know, I did 4.5 minutes. Of course, it's a huge shock to the system when you first go in. But then after a good 30 seconds, your body starts to acclimate and adapt. This is when your brown adipose tissue, because you got Watt and you got Bot, or you got Wat and Bat. And the bat is the brown adipose tissue that is saturated with mitochondria, and they specialize more in creating heat. And this is why babies This is where babies create their heat from. That's why they have so much fat. They don't have a lot of white adipose tissue. They have a lot of brown adipose tissue saturated with mitochondria to create heat and insulation within them, keep them warm. So after a certain amount of time, yeah, that bat started stepping up at bat and knocking it out the park, and I was able to kind of enter kind of a meditative state where I was able to just kind of just sit in that cold water, which was very healing and very soothing and very warming, you know, and I was extremely grateful about that, you know, and I'm looking forward to having that experience again. And I suggest all of you to try some cold plunging out, cold showers, even women, you know, putting your face in the cold water in the morning. All these things help a lot with your health and your wellness. All right. So what we got? All right. So we are going to talk about, we're going to explore some of the quantum coherent relationships between infrared light, methylene blue, Nesut nectar. You know, together these create a potent system for energy restoration, redox modulation, and tissue repair. Now, I'm not here to sell methylene blue. I'm not here to promote it and say it's something that you need. It's just that in talking about health and in talking about wellness, everybody is not jumping on the 100% natural wagon. You know, some people are still taking Advils and Tylenols and Robitussin, and you know, people still, some people taking hydroxychloroquine, some people were taking ivermectin during the you know what, you know. So you know, I speak to everybody because my audience is very diverse. So I'm trying to give information across the board. I'm going to always suggest that you go for what comes, you know, specifically from nature. But if you are into pharmaceuticals, chemistry, chemicals, and things like that, in a certain regard, there are certain ones that have proven, have shown to be of some benefit in certain situations. I'll leave it there. And because of the how popular this methylene blue is becoming, I wanted to get into detail about talking about it. Now, um, we've recently seen methylene blue in a IP in a very popular movie franchise. Does anybody wish to guess what movie franchise I'm speaking on right now? What movie franchise that is very popular right now that is talking about um, methylene blue? They're not calling it that, of course. Anybody? Let's see, Marvel. That's where you going with it, Marvel. This is the blue. It needs to stir. It's at the bottom of the glass. You see how it's blue down there. Let's see. Anybody else? Come on, chat. One movie right now came out last year. Series came out last year into this year, and we're looking forward to the sequel, to the next installment. I'm asking everybody what current film in pop culture is talking about methylene blue. Seeing if anybody knows before I let the cat out the bag. Nobody? Nobody? Deadpool. There we go. Water being. Thank you. That's ironic. That is water being. Yes, water being is correct. Is correct, dude. You know what else I'm gonna do too with this live? I'm going to, yeah. So I just restocked the duck flour. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a giveaway. And the giveaway is going to be a dropper of Nesut Nectar, right? And I'm going to give this dropper of Nesut Nectar because I only have like 20 something duck flowers. Whoever gets the 17th duck flower, whoever order is the 17th duck flower, is going to get a Stingless bee dropper along with it. I'm going to say that again. The duck flowers are back in stock. I only have about 20 or so. Whoever's number 17, because, I got my inventory. So whoever's the 17th duck flower, they're going to get a free bottle of Nesut Nectar, which, is about $150 along with it on me. All right. I'll keep saying it throughout I just thought about doing that right now. It just hit me. I just wanted to kind of give something. So we're going to see how that goes. All right. So yes, Dune is the movie. It is called The Water of Life. So any of y'all who have watched Dune, the original, any of the remakes, there's a substance called the water of life that the Bene Gesserits and Paul Atreides had to drink that takes you close to death, but you survive it and you become this kind of evolved being, and it's extracted from the baby sandworms like it's bile. And that's what this substance is. So apparently, when you take the substance, is going to open up your brain, your nervous system, your mind, your body. All of your processes are going to vibrate just on another level. And this is essentially what happens in the body when your mitochondria are running at full capacity. All right. All right. So let's go to the slides. So in order to get an understanding of methylene blue, we need to understand the mitochondria, right? So I'm going to play, let's see. A video. All right. And I'm going to walk y'all through this animation. Are y'all strapped in? Are y'all ready to go into the inner space? We're about to dive down into the one of the 100 trillion cells that make up your body. So we can go into mitochondria and kind of get an understanding of the electron transport chain, which is the process that's responsible for creating your energy, the 30 million volts that's equivalent to a lightning bolt that's inside of these things. This is what we're about to dive into. So I hope y'all are ready. Let's rock and roll. All right, so here we are looking at the cell, and those squiggly yellow lines are the mitochondria. All right, now here we are zooming in. All right. And we're about to go into the electron transport chain. Now, what you're looking at right now are the different complexes that sit inside the membranes of the mitochondria. So, the mitochondria is shaped like a sausage, like a cucumber. It's oblong, as you've seen in the first beginning of this video. These yellow squiggly lines, they kind of look like worms, like the worms from Dune, squiggling around, right? But they're really like a form of archaea, like a bacteria that we have created a symbiotic relationship like venom in our body with it. And inside are these folds, these cristae, and that's what the yellow is. And the blues and the purples are the enzymes that are stuck inside of the tubules. All right. And this is the process of respiration we're about to look at. All right. ETC, electron transport chain. So the first one is complex 1, NAD dehydrogenase, which I have I'm going to zoom in on this thing. All right. So now we have zoomed in. Okay. If y'all see, this is the same molecule. You see that shape? See that shape? So the yellow is the membrane of the mitochondria. Okay. And it's splitting between the matrix and the inner mitochondria. All right. The inner membrane space is one compartment. The main matrix is another compartment. That yellow is a membrane that is dividing those two spaces. And we are looking at this particular enzyme complex right now, complex 1. And what we're seeing is, when we're eating food and sugars are, releasing certain electrons through the citric acid cycle, those particular electrons are what are carried over to this complex. So this complex is like the carbohydrate complex. All right. This is where, how they say, oh, if there's sugar in your body, you're going to metabolize that before anything else. Well, this particular complex is the one that is overly working, nonstop, in order to constantly receive the electrons from the food that you eat. All right. Now, you have a bunch of hydrogen protons concentrated in the space below. That's the intermembrane space. You see it's real concentrated there, but it's real light on the other side. I'll bring it back real quick. You see how concentrated it is down here and how lightly concentrated. This creates something called a concentration gradient. So all this going on right here, this party, this chaos that's going on, it wants to balance out by getting into this compartment, but it just can't cross the membrane like that. It has to find a specific channel in order for it to go back to this side. Because the only reason why these were able to get to this side in the first place is through this mechanism right here, right? As the electrons are getting fed through it, it is fueling a pump that exists in it that pumps hydrogen from here into here. So you have energy being used. You have a device, so to speak, that's going against the gradient to push things into this space. But once it's over here, it's like stuck. All right. So let's keep going. The body is amazing. All that goes on just so you could have a thought, So these are all complexes. All right. And this is complex 3. So we went to complex 1, they skipped 2, they went straight to 3 because 2 does something else. So it goes to complex 3. Complex 3 is cytochrome C plus 1, which is this kind of shuttling service. As you see right here, it's called quinone and quinol. And y'all know about ubiquinone because when you go to your GNCs or you get your supplements and everything like that, like y'all deal with getting that CoQ10, right? And CoQ10 is just CoQ, which is coenzyme Q or coenzyme quinone, right? 10, right? And that's the name of this particular molecule. And it cycles between these two states of being reduced and being oxidized, because what it's doing is it's transporting the electrons that was going through that complex 1, going through the membrane. Now it's carrying it over to the next, because you don't want it to spill into here. You don't want it to spill into here. It's traveling through the fat, because the fat is where things are getting the electrons are getting transported through these particular areas right here, the yellow, and it's taking it over to this complex right here, this cytochrome C. All right. That is the next step in the ETC cycle. All right. Complex 4. This is the complex that we are to focus on right now. This is cytochrome oxidase. This is the terminal acceptor of those electrons that's getting pumped through. So you have a molecular oxygen that gets fed. Hold on, I'm going to bring that back. Hold on. We have a molecular oxygen, which is O2, right? That's what we breathe, right? That ends up entering from the matrix of the mitochondria. Oh, I went back a little too far. Hold on. That comes from the matrix of mitochondria into this complex. All right. This blue thing is the complex. We got a heme group air where you got iron, right? And you're going to see an oxygen. See, O2 just got in there. So now that O2's there, you're going to start having hydrogens, right, that are going to collect on this O2. And once you get to how many? 8 hydrogen protons along with this O2, you're going to end up getting 2 water molecules and 4 hydrogen protons pumped into this space. All right. And this is the enzyme complex 4, also known as COX or cytochrome oxidase. Okay, now we're about to backtrack and go back to 2. You see 2 is kind of outside the other complexes, right? Now look at all of this amazing, chaotic, but beautiful process that's going on multiple times a second. All right, so that's showing you all the different complexes where they sit. All right, so this is ATP. All right, the yellow part on the left is the adenosine, and the more dark orange is the 3-phosphates. That's the energy that is made inside the mitochondria. Now we're looking at the ATP synthase enzyme. That's this guy right here. You can see, the structures are the same. All right. And what it's saying is phosphorus or phosphate groups plus adenosine diphosphate turns into ATP. And it's taking place through the spinning of this particular motor, which goes about 1,500 times a second, creating an amazing magnetic field. So the magnetic field that we generate, our aura, is based on the spinning of this mechanism in our heart, in our cells, that extends 6 feet outside of our body. So we got the negative charge, we got the right. This is the synthesis of ATP. And those are multiple ATP synthase, cranking them out. It's amazing factory. And this is 10 million magnification. We magnified this 10 million times. So just so you could see how this whole thing is set up, right? If I was to slice a mitochondria and cut through one of the cristae, the tubules, the membrane space that's all folded up inside the mitochondria, this is how it would look inside with all of the complexes, right? Inside the membrane with this high concentration of hydrogen protons within that membrane space and a low concentration, a higher concentration of electrons outside of it. So you have this huge positive charge inside this oval right here, and then you got a negative charge around it. So, you got yourself a capacitor, you got yourself a battery, you got energy being created here. All right, so those are all the complexes. Complex 5, ATP synthase. All right. Complex 1, NAD dehydrogenase. Complex 2, succinate dehydrogenase. Cytochrome C. All right. These are the aspects that make up the electron transport chain and the exchange of positive and negative elements in order to create power within inside you. Now, what does this have to do with anything, right? Let's keep it going. All right, so we got all right, so methylene blue. This is the structure. All right, so the hexagons represent carbon. Everywhere you see a point where you see the lines meet, all right, here, 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 that's carbon. All right, and the lines just represent a bond in between each one of the carbons. The N represents nitrogen, so there's not a carbon here. It is replaced with a nitrogen. There's not a carbon here. This is replaced with sulfur. Okay, we have nitrogen here, and anytime you see these two little lines sticking off to the side with nothing to connect to, those are called methyl groups, which means it's CH3. It's a point at the end, which means there's a carbon here, and there's a hydrogen connected to it, hydrogen connected to it, hydrogen connected to it, hydrogen connected to it. Because carbon has four valences, right, in its outer. So it's connected to this and it has three free ones, which the hydrogens are connected to. And then it has a chloride molecule attached. This is the base chemical that led to hydroxychloroquine. All right. Which was synthesized from quinone, from chinchona bark, right? That led to something for malaria, medicine for malaria, right? But this is the mechanism. Now look at the geometry of this. You know what I mean? There's a lot of symmetry here. It's very powerful with this chloride, and this sulfur and nitrogen is very strong, very specific. All right. But what does this thing do? What does it do? All right. So methylene blue quantum redox catalyst, okay, acts as an artificial electron carrier in the mitochondria, in the ETC, what we just watched. It acts as an artificial carrier. So like how you saw those different mechanisms carrying electrons over, methylene blue acts as a ferry that's able to take electrons and receive electrons, and that's called redox cycling. So if something is inflamed because of the fact that it's oxidized, it can donate electrons and reduce that particular molecule so that it's not oxidized no more, so it has more life, right? And it could become oxidized in the process, right? And then it can take electrons from other areas that need to dump electrons, or maybe there's just free radicals everywhere, and it can take that free electron, that free radical, put it on itself and become reduced. So you end up having this kind of redox, this artificial redox ferry boat that's inside the body. Accepts electrons from NADH or FADH. These are those molecules that you saw when we looked at complex 2. Y'all be able to rewind this to see what I'm talking about. And donates them to cytochrome C, bypassing complex 1 or 3. So cytochrome cytochrome C ends up passing it on to cytochrome 4, which is cytochrome oxidase. And that is the complex of question that we're going to really be digging deep into in regards to the infrared and the methylene blue, melanin, and the honey, because when you deal with starting from complex 1 and doing complex 2 and doing complex 3, that requires energy. If a ball is bouncing downstairs, as it gets closer to the bottom, it starts losing some of that energy as it gets to the bottom, as it's going down energy states. So if you're able to retain the energy, right, that ball will bounce back up the steps. And that's essentially what we're doing here by bypassing these other complexes and going straight to complex 4. All right. It exists in 2 redox states: oxidized, which is in this blue state, and reduced, right, which is colorless. So it goes from a blue color to a clear color, depending on what state it is. So when it's oxidized, it becomes blue. When it's reduced, it goes clear. This reversible cycling is the essence of its redox power, enhances ATP production, reduces oxidative stress, and supports mitochondrial membrane potential. That symbol is the equation symbols for mitochondrial membrane potential. The delta means change, the change supports the change in it. Crosses the blood-brain barrier, supporting neuroprotective processes, and at low doses acts as a monoamine oxidase inhibitor. So MAO inhibitors are what are added to ayahuasca and what honey plays as and other things play as, so that we have longer DMT experiences, right? So this mechanism also is an inhibitor of MAO. So that means that your catecholamines, neurotransmitters, endorphins, feel-good hormones that you have in your brain last longer when this is in the system, because the monoamine oxidase, which would normally denature or break those molecules down, will last longer because the enzyme is inhibited by the methylene. All right. So I pretty much come to the conclusion that methylene blue, even though it's blue, is really a liquid infrared. All right. So my thing is, like, infrared comes from the sun, right? And that's the best place we can get it. It also is going to come from thermal waters, saunas and things like that. This is where, from that hot water, there's heat there, so there's infrared there. But we also utilize infrared bulbs, which man makes and is able to manipulate the electromagnetic frequency so that it can emit a infrared light of certain wavelengths. So this particular liquid substance, this chemical, I feel is like a man-made synthesized liquid infrared. All right, if that makes any sense to you. And I'll go a little deeper in it so you can get an understanding. All right, so that's the molecule again. So it absorbs. So molecules are able to, they absorb things, they reflect things, right? And they also emit things. Okay. So reflect, because when you go outside and you see chlorophyll, you see trees and everything, and grass is green, but it's only green because that's the color getting reflected back to you, because the chlorophyll is actually absorbing red and blue. And because it's absorbing red and blue within inside itself, that's what it's absorbing. All right. What it's reflecting back is green. So methylene blue is blue because it absorbs red and NIR. It absorbs NIR, that's near infrared light. Methylene blue absorbs light in the red to near infrared spectrum from 660 to 670 nanometers. This is the same rays used in photobiomodulation. Photobiomodulation. And speaking of photobiomodulation, give me 1 second. Okay. All right. This is what you want. 10 lectures on basic science of laser phototherapy. Okay, this is a photobiomodulation book by Tina Carew, and it deals with 10 different lectures, 10 different studies that she did on utilizing, what's that? Infrared light, right? Infrared light in order to assist people with illnesses and inflammation and increase health. All right. Tina Carew. All right. It's not that easy of a read for those that are not, in the science a lot like that. The summaries are real good, and you can also just take it one step at a time to break it down, But these are some powerful studies right here. All right. So, people ask for books and the site information. So this is a good book right here. All right. So let's go back. Let's go back. 33% off sale now. soionicbotanicals.com. 33% off the honey. 33% off of herbs. 33% off phyto and other items. 17th order of duck flour gets a free dropper bottle of Nesut Nectar. All right, so this is the same range used in photobiomodulation. Photo means light, bio is body, modulation is the modulate, the adjusting of and balancing of certain processes, leveling things out, turning things up, turning things down, making them even, photobiomodulation, the healing light therapy used for pain, skin rejuvenation, neuroprotection, and energy. When combined with red infrared light exposure, MB actually amplifies the mitochondrial benefits like a light booster inside the cell. So for the mere fact that it emits, all right, because I'm about to get that, for the mere fact that it emits infrared light and absorbs infrared light, that means that when it's in the body and you shine infrared on methylene blue, the methylene blue is going to take the photons from the light and convert the photons from the light into electrons and pass the electrons on to where they need to go inside the body. And this could be used in like surgeries and all types of stuff to stop, bleeding and complications and everything, No coupon code for the sale. It's just 33% off. Once you click the item and you go to your cart, you'll see the discount. You won't see the discount from the main page. You'll see it once you choose the item. All right. The title of the book is 10 Lectures on Basic Science of Laser Phototherapy. 10 Lectures on Basic Science of Laser Phototherapy by Tina Carew. Tina got two I's. TIINAKARU. All right. Now, it reflects blue light. Okay, the vivid blue color we see is because MB reflects blue wavelengths, 600, right? Blue wavelengths is not, I got that wrong. 600 to 700 nanometers is not blue light. That's 450 to like 5. Let's say 430 to about 5, I would say, somewhere around there. The reflection is not just aesthetic, it symbolizes its action. carrying light-based healing in while shielding the body from overexposure or oxidative chaos. Fluorescent or photodynamic activation. This is its emissions. And B can become photoexcited under red infrared light, meaning it literally glows at the molecular level when it's hit with the right frequency. This energy transfer makes it act like a tiny solar panel inside your cells. All right. So like I said, this is what supposed to happen with methylene blue. This is the reason why everybody's on it. This is why people are taking it, because this is how this chemical acts inside the body. Like I said, it is a chemical. And, you know, I'm a big proponent of taking herbs, taking natural substances that come from nature. Not against being in the lab and figuring out ways to enhance, you know, ourselves and our innate abilities. There's a chance that this could be one chemical that actually works. I don't know, but I tell you, through the studies, through the information, through the chemistry, it definitely looks compelling. Now, only when you take it in small doses. I think it's supposed to be about 15 like milliliters per kilogram of weight or something like that. It's supposed to be the right dosage, you know. But I tell y'all to do the research on that. I didn't get into the details of dosages and everything like that, because you know, when you get into methylene blue, you're getting into pharmaceuticals, you're getting into drugs, medicines, chemicals, and you know, those things could get patented, and that's not nature. So I'm not about to tell y'all no dosages or something. I'm just giving y'all the information on methylene blue because it reinforces the science of infrared. So technically what I'm doing and teaching about methylene blue is really teaching you what infrared light does when it penetrates deep inside the tissues and the cells, and what you have the ability to do even without it once it happens. And a lot of people that are taking methylene blue, they're not in infrared light. They're not catching the morning sunrise. They're not in tropical regions where the infrared is stronger in the morning and UV stronger later. Like, that's not happening, you know? All right. Let's keep going. Methylene blue, water life from the Dune series. All right. So on a like a analogy side of things, methylene blue is like, think of it like a portable charger when your phone battery is dying. All right. So like not so much a portable charger, what they call it, a bank, a power bank. When your phone battery is dying and the normal charger isn't working, maybe the wall plug is damaged, you grab your portable power bank. The methylene blue, it jumps in and gives your cell backup power, especially when part of your cell's normal energy system is broken, you know? All right. All right. So infrared light. Infrared light is the mitochondrial light switch. It's absorbed by COX, the complex 4, right? Cytochrome oxidase. That's why it's called COX, right? At 620 to 870 nanometers. This associates inhibitory nitric oxide, increases ATP production and mitochondrial activity, enhances cellular metabolism and healing, stimulates redox balance and gene expression. Infrared light, mitochondrial light switch. All right. Infrared and near infrared light, especially wavelengths between 620 and 680 and 760 and 850, are absorbed by cytochrome oxidase. All right. And let's get into let me show y'all something, because you see it says heme A, heme A3, copper B, copper A, and then it says 605 to 630, 655 to 680, 750 to 790, 830 to 870. So these are the different wavelengths of infrared that each one of these centers inside of cytochrome oxidase. These are the wavelengths that are absorbed. All right. So I'm going to go back to this right here. And let me see. It should be, give me 1 second, y'all. Make sure the screen is straight. Okay. Still not the full screen like I want it to be, but that's cool. All right. And like and subscribe and share. Hit the like button, y'all. Hit the like button. All right. So this is a diagram of the mitochondria that I had designed a couple years ago. And it has become very helpful because whenever I talk about different things, I can always kind of come back to this graphic because it has everything that I need in here. So I'm going to zoom in to right here. Okay. All right. So you see it says IR beam. IR means infrared. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second, y'all. All right. All right. Pardon me, y'all. Pardon me. Okay. So the IR stands for infrared. Beam is the beam of infrared light. Now, what we have in the yellow is the cytochrome oxidase in that membrane, like we saw earlier in the animation. What this IR beam does is it actually activates the cytochrome oxidase to work because those centers, which are right here, let's blow it up. Those centers that are inside, you see it says copper B, copper A, Hem A, Heme A3. These are the iron and the copper centers inside this enzyme that has those absorption numbers I just spoke on. So when the infrared with those particular values, with those wavelengths, hit cytochrome oxidase and hit these centers, it causes these centers to work as if you ate food and the electrons got shuttled there to turn them on, except you skip complex 1, you skip complex 2, you skip complex 3, and you go straight to complex 4. And in going straight to complex 4, you save all that energy, you save all that time. And now what you're doing is you're producing water, you're producing ATP, because you're producing the water in the mitochondrial matrix, and you're helping the ATP synthase, which is the next enzyme, complex 5, to create ATP from the concentration gradient that you're making between the positive and the negative charge. All right. Thank you, Edward Tillman. The honey's on sale right now, and I'm giving away a free bottle of a honey dropper bottle with my whoever buys the 17th duck flower. Whoever gets that guy, we're gonna see. We got a couple packages too. We have the parasite purge package, which has all of the parasite cleansing herbs and products in there. It's really like a value of like $900 or something, and it's cut right down the middle. It's actually more than half, I believe, with the discount. And then we have the spring revival one too. I think you're saving about $300 on that one. So we have a couple packages available. We have the 33% off sale. We have the new large, the big boy grande honey now too. And then we got duck flower back in stock. So yeah. All right. So this is amazing. This shows you that directly that all the way deep in the mitochondria in your cells, in your tissues, there are receptors in the form of copper and iron, right? That sit inside this enzyme to receive the frequencies of light from infrared and use them to turn it on. Now, one of the other things that occur inside of this cytochrome oxidase is the fact that NO or nitric oxide is usually bound to some of the elements inside. And what let me go back, what these frequencies of infrared do is they actually dislodge hold on. They actually dislodge. That's too big. Hold on. Bring that down. What was that? 125. Okay. The nitric oxide as well. Let me go back up. All right, so infrared light photo disassociates nitric oxide. Photo means light, disassociate means to separate or remove. You know, if you had a friend or something, you turned out y'all don't really get along, they actually was very negative to you and in your life, draining like a parasite, right? You would do what? You would disassociate from them. And what would that look like? Okay, if you associated with them, the two of you would be standing in some parking lot talking, right? Rapping for hours about stuff, right? And then if you like, oh man, I can't deal with this person no more, you disassociate, you leave that person, you don't see that person again, you don't talk to that person, you don't got nothing to do with them again. So photo disassociates means that it is breaking apart, or is leaving, or it's removing rather, okay? Infrared light is removing nitric oxide from cytochrome oxidase, unblocking the respiratory chain and restoring ATP synthesis. Because when NO is there and bound, it actually suspends ATP synthesis. So in the morning, when we first get, in the morning, when our nitric oxide levels are increasing and everything, we are getting vasodilation, right? And the blood's flowing and everything like that. And we get the blood coming closer to the surface so it can pull the infrared light in. And then what happens is the nitric oxide ends up getting removed so that ATP synthase can resume its functionality and it can make its ATP. All right. This induces a mild burst of ROS, which is reactive oxygen species, as a signaling mechanism for healing and regeneration. So ROS, reactive oxygen species, is usually seen as a oxidation or free radicals and like inflammation and something that hurts the body. And it is when it's overdone. But when it's done specifically, you can use it for healing, signaling, and regeneration. It's kind of like if you think of a let's think of a gun, right? If you think of a gun and you're shooting, I don't know, a bullseye that's like meters away, right? You're just shooting that bullseye, boom, 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 boom. There's no issue with that, right? But if you have like a machine gun, right, that kickback and just how many bullets is flying out, like it ain't gonna hit that bullseye. That thing gonna be all over the place. It's gonna hit the bullseye. It's gonna hit trees. It's gonna hit bushes. It's gonna be all over. But when you got like that one sniper rifle, right? Yeah, that'd be a good way to put it. Oh, gotta forgive me. I don't mean to be using guns as an analogy, but when you're watching these movies where they got these snipers, right, and the sniper is a good guy, and they have to take out some terrorists, right, and they up on the building and they let one fire, they catch that guy, boom. But if they had some type of machine gun or everything, there's, there'll be all types of casualties. It'll be a whole lot of noise, and it ain't gonna work the same. So they're both guns. They both was trying to do the same thing, but one is a little bit more successful. So these mild bursts of ROS, right, as a signaling mechanism can now be used for healing and regeneration, as opposed to it being an overabundance of ROS that causes damage and oxidation to the mitochondria. All right. Infrared light charging cable that makes the power work again. Now imagine your charging port is jammed with something like lint dirt, or even when you plug it in, it doesn't charge. So you got dirt, lint, water, something got up inside the little charging point. So you go to put it in there, but then when you plug in, there's no electricity sign. There's no lightning bolt there. It doesn't turn green where you see it's charging. It's still red. Okay, that's what happens when nitric oxide blocks cytochrome oxidase. So you can't, the infrared is not able to, the ATP synthase is not able to make the ATP, right? So infrared light is like, how we used to blow in the Nintendo games back in the day to make them work. We blow through it. So the infrared light is like that, cleaning the lint out so that the energy flows again. And this isn't to knock nitric oxide, because it's a wonderful molecule and we need it. We're just talking about the balance of certain things happening inside the body, so cleaning that out. Let's see what y'all talking about right now. All right. Yeah. Like, and subscribe. Like, and subscribe. All right. What else we got? Just keep it moving. All right. So that was infrared. So Nesut Nectar photonic amplifier, okay, light amplifier, contains light absorbing polyphenols and enzymes, fluoresces under UV light because of the biophotonic activity in it, enhances infrared absorption due to darker color and viscosity. So it absorbs. This is why I say put the honey out. That's how you activate it. When the honey is outside, when you get it in the sun, it's that infrared light that it absorbs. All right. And in it absorbing infrared light, it causes it to fluoresce and emit UV light. It turns infrared into ultraviolet, which inside the body governs a lot of reactions that balance your health. Promotes wound healing and tissue regeneration, acts as a biological matrix for energy transfer. Yes, Nesut Nectar is the guy. Rich in polyphenols, enzymes, and organic acids that absorb UV and blue light. Possesses fluorescence under UV, indicating the capacity to absorb, store, and re-emit light. High water content increases light absorption and transmission properties. Antibacterial, antioxidant, and tissue regenerative, promotes wound healing and mucosal repair. Its dark amber tone enhances infrared absorption and localized photothermal effects. This is what happens over time with the honey. Functions as a natural photonic amplifier, enabling better light penetration and deeper tissue modulation when paired with infrared light. So hitting it with the infrared, hitting it with the, see, I'm hitting it, I'm bathing it in the infrared light. All right. It is soaking that up, right? And then because I can't grab infrared with my hand, right? But you can with this. This is like hands that grab the light, hold the light, hold it as infrared, holds it as UV, and then you eat it, or you put it on your skin, or you put it in your eyes. And infrared and UV help so much with circadian rhythm that when you're putting these light molecules in your eye, what you're doing now is you're tuning and aligning the timing mechanisms that are inside of your brain that can then make the necessary hormones throughout the body. Cheryl C is new, she said, and she needs to know what's going on. I can put the website in here. So ionicbotanicals.com is the website. And I'm talking about Nesut Nectar Stingless bee honey, which is for eye issues, genetic issues, diabetes, scars, wound healing. And one of the most amazing things is for the woman's vagina that you're able to insert the honey into the vagina to cleanse the vagina, tone the vagina, help balance the hormones in the female reproductive system because it gets absorbed in the walls. Pleasant smell. It's almost like taking doing a yoni steam, with a suppository though. No discount code on the Nesut Nectar because there's a 33% off sale on the site right now, and the Nesut Nectar is included in that discount. So you would get 1/3 off whatever the price is. That's a good discount right there. The honey, and then I was talking about the different sizes. Spoke on duck flower a little bit. We have a large collection of items on the site between herbs and some superfoods that are on there. I suggest you go over there and check it out, see if there's anything that catches your eye. If so, you can ask a question in the chat and I'll answer it based on that product. All right, let me go back. Let me go back. All right. So Nesut Nectar equals the genius repair app that fixes and recharges your phone while you sleep. So you download this app that repairs cracked screens, clears viruses, rebuilds battery life, charges the phone wirelessly while it's resting, and even updates the system so it runs smoother. That's what Stingless bee honey does inside your body. It repairs tissue like cracked screens, right? It clears oxidative stress like viruses, right? It charges cellular energy systems like charging the phone, and it regenerates internal systems while you rest asleep. Like you after your update, you went from an iPhone 16 to an iPhone 22. This is what the honey do. All right. So remember with the methylene blue, we was talking about a power bank. With the infrared, we was talking about cleaning out the lint and the dust from the port, so everything charges more efficiently, right? And now we're talking about kind of a phone regenerator, which is like just like this is like another dimension of technology. This is what the honey is too, I don't know about Manuka, but I tell you, if you put any honey next to this Nesut Nectar, it cannot stand. It is not comparable at all. All right. So this is what the Nesut Nectar is doing. This is the upgrade to the system that you have now. You are in front of a panel, in front of the whole universe, and you know exactly what buttons to press, not to press, what's coming, what's going out. Your system is in the know. It knows everything that it needs to do. This person in this control panel, they're lax. They're like, I know everything that's happening. I'm good right now. No stress, right? All right, so melanin. The living wide band gap semiconductor. Okay. Natural biopolymer with a wide band gap, 1.5 to 2.5 electron volts. Conducts both protons and electrons. All right. So where methylene blue was just a redox cycler, where it deals with oxidation and reduction of electrons, melanin conducts both protons and electrons, absorbs UV, visible, and infrared light. It absorbs the entire electromagnetic spectrum, acts as a light sponge, capacitor, and biological signal transducer, found in the skin, brain's retina, and inner ear, and all the tissues in the body, cells of the body. Translates light into biological responses and memory encoding. All right. Memory, yes, RAM. Yes, so the descriptions aren't on the site like I would like them to be, because a lot of these platforms have a real problem with natural products being on there and you making certain claims. So I have to be mindful about what I say. So that's why I speak in depth in my presentations, my lives, and posts on like IG and social media, so you can get like the descriptions that way. I have to kind of do it in that sense. But Tekanu is the ancient Kemetic name for obelisk, which are the structures that are like the Washington Monument in DC, where it represents the 14th piece of Asar that wasn't found, of Osiris that wasn't found, which is his phallus, his penis. So the Tekanu stands erect, pointing straight to the sun, because it represents the virility and libido of the man. So Tekanu is a formula for men, for their prostate, for erectile dysfunction, and for to balance their testosterone. The interesting thing is, when women take Tekanu, they balance their hormones, because the properties that exist inside the Tekanu is able to nourish the hormonal pathways of the woman, like it's helping the men with the men. So women still benefit from it, but that's what the Tekanu is for. Yes, Patreon is still alive and well. Yes, it is. All right. Let's keep this thing going. All right. So we got wide band gap versus regular semiconductor. All right. So just to give you a kind of understanding of like semiconductors. All right. So when you look at the periodic table of elements, they're in like categories, and like carbon and silica, they're in the same category, right? That's why, we have solar panels, and they're made out of silicon. And our body is carbon based, like computers, and solar panels are silicon based. And the same way our body has other minerals that mix with the carbon in order to create certain technologies in our body, we do that in order to get solar panels to work. So if you look to one side of the carbon and the silica on the periodic table, and look onto the other side, you'll see on one side, you'll see like phosphorus, right? Because they have five 5 electrons in their outer shell. If you look to the other side, you have things like boron that only have 3. Well, carbon and silica got 4 in theirs. All right. And that's what makes carbon, silica such good building blocks, because they're able to attach those 4 around like a block, like a square, like a foundation. So if you have a diamond is just carbon, and all the carbons are intricately connected to each other, and that's what you call an insulator. There are no electrons moving around in there. Everything is connected to every electron, or it just has this perfect structure. That's why diamonds look the way they look, and why they reflect light the way that they do. They're really an insulator. There's no conductivity occurring inside that diamond, right? But if you remove one of those carbons and replace it with another element like Phosphorus having 5, now you have an additional electron that's free, because remember, the carbon had 4. Phosphorus has 5. So if I replace a carbon with 4 with 5, the difference between 4 and 5 is 1. So now I have a free electron. It's like musical chairs. Okay, if there's 5 people and there's 4 seats and the music stops playing, somebody's still standing up. They can move around freely. This electron can move around freely. Similar with boron. Boron got 3. So now what you have is you replace one of the carbons, or you replace the silica with the boron. Now you have 1 less. So you got like a hole. You got a hole there now. So that's called a p-type semiconductor. The other one's called an n-type semiconductor. And what it is it means that the main structure of this material is an insulator, because it's like all carbon and all silica, but you dope it, you add elements of phosphorus in there. So now you have all of these free electrons within this material that can move freely. All right, so that's what a semiconductor is, because semi means half. So it means it halfway conducts. It's like it's half insulator, it's half conductor. All right. So now we got a wide band gap versus regular semiconductor, because we need to know what a wide band gap semiconductor is so we can understand why melanin is so powerful. A band gap refers to the energy difference between the valence band. This is where the electrons sit in the orbitals, right? And the conduction band, this is in the orbital where the electrons can flow, right? So when I just mentioned the outer shell of phosphorus having 5, the outer shell of the carbon having 4, right? That's the outer shell. That is the valence band. That is the area where the electrons can move. The other orbitals that are within from that area, because what carbon has 6 electrons, right? You can only put 2 in the first orbital, which means you got 4 in the second. So the one that got the 2, that's not the valence band. Those electrons, they ain't going nowhere. When there's bonding taking place, or a covalent bond, ionic bond, electrons moving around, those 2 inside ain't going nowhere. It's the ones on the outside that's going somewhere. Okay, so a band gap refers to the energy difference between the valence band and the conduction band. To become conductive, electrons must gain energy to jump this gap. Regular narrow band gap semiconductors like silicon are easy to activate but have limited power handling. Wide band gap semiconductors like silicon carbide or melanin require more energy but offer greater control, stability, and functionality. All right. And we can compare this to like roads and tunnels. All right. So if we think of a regular semiconductor, narrow band gap is a small hill with a short tunnel. The electrons represent the cars. Okay, they just need a small boost to get through that little hill. Energy flows easily, but the material overheats or breaks down at high power or temperatures. Think the commuter tunnel in a city, useful but limited under pressure. You know, a small tunnel and a small hill with a whole lot of traffic and congestion. Big problem, more wear and tear, everything like that. A wide band gap semiconductor, a tall mountain with a long reinforced tunnel built by the military. All right, which y'all seen in a lot of these movies when they build those structures in those mountains. It takes more energy for the electron car to pass through, large band gap. But once it does, the tunnel is stronger, supports higher voltage, frequency, and doesn't overheat easily. Think military grade mountain tunnel built for extreme performance and durability. Okay, why this works. Driving through a tunnel to make the invisible concept of a band gap energy relatable. The height of the hill mountain equal energy required to cross the band gap. The durability of the tunnel, how much heat and voltage the material can handle. Wide band gap semiconductors are better for high stress, high energy environments, just like reinforced tunnels in mountains. Okay, regular semiconductor, wide band gap semiconductor, short tunnel, long reinforced tunnel, or regular semiconductor, narrow band gap. See that little thing? Imagine rush hour traffic in that. Imagine a car accident in that, right? Versus a wide band gap semiconductor in one of these. And imagine this just a little longer in a bigger mountain. But that's just the image I was able to get. Pasha, I would say the honey, drop the honey in the eyes, get the Phyto Omega 3. You know, I would just get the spring revival package would be real good. That package has enough items in there that would definitely benefit for sure. But if you're just looking for individuals and vitamin D, the Sotriol D, the Phyto Omega 3, the honey would definitely go. All right. So in comparing, you know, melanin and methylene blue is kind of like them taking a liquid melanin. That's exactly what it really is. An interesting thing is methylene blue and melanin can work harmoniously together, theoretically, based on, you know, the science that I'm looking at and everything like that. So charge carriers, protons and electrons, while methylene blue is electrons only. Mechanism, melanin got continuous conduction. Methylene blue is cycling redox switching. Band gap, melanin is wide, while methylene blue is more narrow. Light absorption, broad spectrum, UV to IR, where methylene blue is specifically in the infrared range. Biofunction, photoprotection, signaling, mitochondrial restoration, but melanin is mitochondrial restoration as well, and I'll get into why shortly. Melanin provides steady state redox buffering. Methylene blue provides dynamic electron correction. Melanin is the biological screen, MB is the focusing lens. So if you heard my anatomy about melanin being the organizer of the body, similar to being in a movie theater where the projector is shooting a beam of light and you don't know what's in that beam of light till it hits the screen. Now it all makes sense. Now you can watch the film. That's what melanin is. Methylene blue would be kind of like the lens that the projector utilizes. So a more advanced lens, a crisper lens, a cleaner lens would give an even more fine-tuned image on that screen. It'll be sharper, you know. MB can help restore over-oxidized melanin and enhance cellular energy flow. A lot of us as people, indigenous people, we suffer from a lot of melanin issues because of where we live and how we live in. And a lot of that compromising that's occurring inside of our body can be remedied and helped through theoretically what methylene blue does. MB refines and focuses photonic input before it reaches melanin-rich tissues. All right, refines and focuses the light. All right. So different melanin levels influence how methylene blue performs in the body. So light absorption, high melanin phenotype. So this is more like dealing with people that have more melanin in them, you know, indigenous copper tone and even the congloid, you know, phenotypes versus more of the Nordic or lighter tone phenotypes, you know, light absorption, more UV, IR absorption. Low melanin phenotype means deeper penetration. People who have less melanin actually vitamin D levels, they hit them quicker because they don't have the scattering of light that occurs through melanin. Melanin scatters light and it does a lot of things with light before the UV is able to be converted into vitamin D. Redox buffering, strong natural redox control, more reliant on supplements. MB retention, possibly longer due to melanin, shorter duration, light and MB activation, localized and layered, fast and deeper, dosing sensitivity, lower, more gradual, maybe better, more standard tolerances. So darker skin individuals dealing with MB, they might want to take lower doses over long periods of time, while low melanin individuals, they could just take the standard or deal with higher dosages. All right. So the reason why I mentioned the thing about melanin before was because of the water splitting. All right. So emerging research indicates that melanin may have rare biological ability to perform a photolysis, the splitting of water into hydrogen and oxygen using light. This mirrors the function of photosynthesis in plants, but within animal cells and tissues. All right. So the capability suggests melanin can absorb sunlight, use photon energy to split water, generate biological energy, proton gradients, electrons, serve as internal solar battery in high melanin systems. So as they split the H2O, it's H2O and 4 high energy electrons. This makes melanin not only a light modulating and protective, but also a potential photonic energy generator, supporting the body's bioenergetics through water splitting mechanisms. All right, so we got methylene blue as an external power bank when your internal battery is weak, right? Infrared light, the energy wave that clears the charge ports and turns the phone back on. Nesut Nectar, the magical app that repairs, charges, and restores the whole phone system. All right, redox cycling, electron transport for the methylene blue, infrared mitochondrial activation, NO release, Nesut Nectar light modulation, tissue conductivity, melanin wide band gap semiconductor, water splitter. Okay, sentient semiconductor. All right, and methylene blue is nothing more than a really a kind of a synthetic attempt to create some type of melanin. But you know, the interesting in melanin is, melanin is doing a lot of work with inside the body. The methylene blue, as soon as it is in an environment where it does redox cycling to accept electrons or give electrons, it starts doing so, you know, and melanin is absorbing light in order for it to do the different things it needs to do. So of course, melanin is going to be the superior compound, but even when we look in our brain, we have the substantia nigra, we have the locus ceruleus. The substantia nigra means black substance, which is the jet black neuromelanin in our brain, but we have the locus ceruleus, which is also melanated, but it's blue. It's blue, all right? Blue like the oxidized state of psilocybin, right? So I find that quite interesting, So, let's see, go back to there. So the duck flower, amazing plant, Aristolochia grandiflora. This is the 6-month detox in 6 hours. All right. You hydrate this flower in water for, you know, about 4 hours or so, 5 hours or so. And you eat the flower and you drink the water. And in about an hour from that, yeah, your body just starts sweating. You get nauseous. You start salivating. In the same way that a woman goes through contractions to have a child, your digestive system, your gastric system starts to go through contractions as it starts to push out all of the mucus, toxins, parasites, heavy metals, microplastics, and artificial elements that have, you know, gotten comfortable inside your body and have not been removed. And it purges you for hours. You know, you're throwing up for about 4 to 6 hours. You'll urinate, you'll defecate too. You know, if you feel you got to urinate, sit down. Don't trust your colon at that time. Just sit down because it might be coming out both sides. And then, you know, you make sure that you stay hydrated. You drink coconut water during and after, so you can keep, you know, your hydration as you're getting all this water out your body. But the duck flower is very, very strong stuff, very potent stuff. People have been asking for it for a while because I had some I sold out last year sometime in the summer. So I got a few more in. So we got it on the site. And what I mentioned was I only have a few, but whoever is my 17th order of duck flower, I'm just picking that number 17. If whoever's the 17th order of duck flower is going to get a free dropper bottle of Nesut nectar. Not this size, but the bottle, the dropper. I mean, the dropper. Yes, all products come with descriptions and directions. Yes, they do. And we have an email on the site. So anything you need further information on, you can email us on. We're going to respond. Okay. And this is the big boy. All right. Comes with a cork top. You know, we got the tall glass 16 ounce. 16 ounces equivalent to 4 honey jars. 4 honey jars, but you're paying about 2 2/3 the price of 4 honey jars. So you're getting about 1 1/3 honey jar discount, right? So it's like buying 2.5 jars and getting a jar and a half for free, something like that. It pans out. So very, very economical. And this way you got some in the cabinet, the pantry. You can use it for your eyes, you can use it for your food, you can take tablespoons, just to get into the system to give you those nutrients. So it's an amazing product to have. And then of course, like I said earlier, we're doing 33% off the selected items, the Bantana, the Fido, the honey, the purple sea moss, the sultriol, all of those are on sale right now. Yeah. So yeah, red light special. The infrared light is bypassing all of these other enzymes in the mitochondria, and infrared penetrates deeper than any other color. Blue, green, yellow, orange, they do not penetrate as deep. UV goes pretty much to the top layers of the skin. Most of the colors stop right after the skin. Infrared pretty much penetrates almost halfway through you. And because when you put your hand up to infrared, or just up to light, like what do you call it? A incandescent bulb. If you put your hand in front of an incandescent bulb, that incandescent bulb contains all colors of light, predominantly infrared. That's why it's so warm. And you will see the red coming through your hand, especially your webbed fingers and the tips around your fingers. All of that'll be red because that's it penetrating through. But if you do the same thing with other colors, your hand don't do that, So infrared penetrates deep. So it's able to get deep inside the body, and it's able to get in those cells, and it's able to get to those tissues, and it's able to activate. So when you're sitting under infrared, it's not just your skin and the outside of your body that's receiving the benefits. It's as if you are taking a syringe and you are drawing up infrared from the light, and you sticking it in your body and injecting the infrared deep into the blood and deep into your tissues. That's what happens just sitting in infrared. So yeah, being inside infrared light is a game changer. If you're dealing with almost any health issue, you can depend on infrared light assisting with providing more energy, more charge, less inflammation, better rest, better circadian rhythm. It's gonna help you in all areas, So this presentation was very dense. Had some very intense info in there. I didn't go in depth in each one of the points. I kind of kept it moving. So this is definitely a rewind. I'm working on a video that goes through all of this with images and information and stuff that I'm going to debut. So this is kind of a intro into that video, or a preview, so to speak, a trailer for y'all to be part of. And then I'm going to have that video that's going to really tell a great story so y'all can understand how important light is. But yeah, methylene blue is a redox cycler, apparently. People take it because it's able to donate and it's able to accept. So it's gonna salvage free radicals, and in salvaging free radicals, it's gonna become oxidized, right? It's gonna become oxidized. No, I'm sorry. As it gets the electron, it's gonna actually become reduced. You know what I mean? Because it's receiving electrons, right? So it's technically going to reduce itself. So it's going to be in a safe state, reduced, because free radicals, reason why you take antioxidants is so they can bond with free radicals, so they're not free roaming, destroying everything. They have something stable to attach to. So that's what the methylene blue is acting like. And then once it has those free radicals that it's holding on to, it'll release them not as free radicals, but as high energy electrons into systems, So I can understand the theory of it all, like what it's supposed to be done. And if it's actually doing those things, it is a game changer. And for me to be able to recognize a chemical that's outside of nature doing that is difficult for me. But at the same time, if I go back to the molecule, I mean, it's technically it still is based on nature, because it's based on carbon, nitrogen, sulfur, chloride, which we know all exists in nature. It's just that it was not made outside. Now, the history of methylene blue is interesting. That's what I didn't get into, and that's going to be on the video, but I could talk a little bit about it. We got BASF, which is a company, which is like the largest chemical company in the world for pharmaceuticals. And it stands for Beta Aniline and Soda Factory. Beta Aniline and Soda Factory. Soda as in baking soda, right? Sodium bicarbonate. And aniline, because aniline is one of the first molecules that was isolated from coal tar and from the petroleum. So, in the pharmacies utilizing petroleum in order to make all of their medications and their pharmaceuticals, is because petroleum and oil is just saturated with hydrocarbons, and hydrocarbons are benzenes. These are the 6-sided carbon molecules. So that they're taking these carbon molecules and they're arranging and rearranging them, creating all of these compounds with them. So one of the first things they made was aniline. And then I think the first pigment they made was mauvine, where you get the color mauve from. And then the first patented pharmaceutical drug of all time is methylene blue. This is the first thing they ever made. I think it was in 1886 or something. They made it because they were trying to synthesize quinine from cinchona bark, which is where quinone comes from, and you get hydroxychloroquine from. So they was trying to synthesize that, and in that they were developing these other pigments, and they ended up making this methylene blue, which is also used as a dye for stains in molecular biology in order to see certain things. But in them using it for dyes and stuff, it actually was studied and found to be a redox cycler. I mean, they didn't know that. I don't think they knew that term at the time, but they were noticing what properties the pigment has. So pigments, period, are what manipulate our health in good ways and bad. So when you deal with some of the most potent herbs, is because they have some color to it, right? When you're dealing with yellow dock, berberine, right? Cryptolepsis, they're all yellow, right? Then you got things like cucumeca, and mucilage, which are red, and mucilage turns from red to orange to yellow, green, blue, all colors, because it has all those anthocyanins. The highest concentration in any other plant is inside mucilage. And then you have the what are the other colors I could think of that you got yellows, you got reds, you got certain things that create a green. You have the colors that are just in fruit, in the skin, and the pulp, and in the juices. So these pigments. Oh yeah, like I'm thinking prickly pear. Prickly pear with its fuchsia color, and the dragon fruit with its fuchsia color is betalins, right? All of these pigments and these colors, when you get these pigments inside the body, they are frequencies and they are chemicals. And on both sides, they help the body do better. They help the body transmit light better, get trash out, recycle things, bring a new type of well-being to worn out tissue, And melanin being black, it's all colors. It has the ability to create all colors. Melanin can create reds and orange, yellow, blue, all that, because it absorbs all colors. It's in there and it's able to push all those colors out. So I can understand what this is in regards to them starting off with using pigments, because they had to come up with ways to save money. You can't patent nature. So they was like, yo, we need to be able to create something we could patent that does some work. And, methylene blue was something that was made back in the 1800s, probably was made way before then. It was rediscovered at that time. And to this day, there's a lot of people that use it, swear by it, and have good results with it. But if you got melanin, you're good to go. If you're eating high pigmented fruits and vegetables, you're good to go. If you have herbs that dye and that create color, you are good to go. All right. Get the colors in the body, get the pigment in the body. All right. Once again, we got the 33% off sale right now on the site. We got the large Nesut Nectar. We got some duck flower in the building. And whoever is my 17th duck flower order, 17 is the number, is going to get a free dropper of Nesut Nectar as part of their order. Is going to come with your duck flower. Let's see. Yep. And then packages wise, we have that's interesting. Why did that happen? You see how it just went infrared on y'all? That was crazy. The packages wise, we have the purge package, purge parasite package, and the summer revival. Those are the two that we got available right now. But yeah, this was Red Light Special. I hope y'all enjoyed the information. Please share, please subscribe. If you haven't, leave a comment, like, hit the like button, and check it out. Rewind this and go back over, because I know I talked about a few things. All right. Peace and love. I'll see y'all soon.